Hello, welcome to Introduction to Entra ID. I am Stormwind Studios instructor and Cybex author William Panek. Thank you for joining me for another webinar. So it's great to see everybody. Thank you for coming out. I see a bunch of people from all over posting up where they're from Mass and Florida, and so that's awesome. So I'll let you know where I'm from. I'm in New Hampshire. And I grew up in New Jersey and Florida, so I've been all over. So it's great to see everybody. So we are up here in the New England area. So welcome to class, everybody. Okay, so what we're going to do today is pretty simple. It's actually going to be a pretty straightforward webinar. We're going to talk about the changes that Microsoft has coming down the road for us when it comes to Azure and it comes to endpoint and Intune and whatever they decide that they're going to eventually name this. So we're going to take a few minutes. We're going to talk about some of the proposed changes, some things that you got to watch for, and we'll just talk about what you have to expect. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple minutes at the end, and we're going to talk about the exams, because that has been a major focus for everyone in my classes lately. How are the exams changing? What are they going to be? When are they going to come out? We here at Stormwinds started doing an MD 102 class. Now, MD 102 is going to be replacing the Windows client exams, Windows 10, Windows 11, MD 100, MD 101. The day that we got ready to teach it, Microsoft canceled the class. Now, it's not canceled for good. They just put a hold on it because that same day they announced that they were getting rid of the name endpoint and they were actually going to be replacing endpoint. So everything is changing in the Microsoft world. So as long as you understand these changes and how it's going to affect you, it's pretty simple. But when it comes to Azure Active Directory, which by the way is also now changing, it is no longer going to be Azure Active Directory. It's going to be Entra. So as soon as that change is over, here's the thing. All you have to do is just know about the change. Physically doing anything is not going to be required. So we're going to talk about some of the changes Microsoft has. We'll talk about some of the exam stuff, and we'll take it from there. So I currently have a couple systems set up. I have a server set up in case we need it, if we can jump on. And we have our PowerPoint system here so I can give you a terrific slideshow. So this is introduction to the Entra ID. As I said, I am Stormwind Studios instructor, Will Panek. I have been in the industry for over 30 years. I have been a trainer almost 25 years. I almost hit my 25-year mark. So I'm getting close. Now, during that time, though, I worked full-time. I was an IT member. I was an IT manager. I was an IT director. And I was an IT director, and that's where Stormwinds actually grabbed me from. So when I teach my classes, one of the things that I do is I try to make sure that we do a lot of real world. It's very important to me to make sure that not only are you ready for the exams, not only that, you can go knock out your certifications, but also that you know how to do this inside now. So when I teach my classes, I bring a lot of real world into the classes. All right. So one of the things that I like to do when we run our classes is, anybody here, there's a lot of people here right now that have been in my classes, and they'll tell you we have kind of a laid back, easy way of doing things, but we really dive into just more than learning the product or just more than getting ready for the exam. We've actually pulled people's systems up and helped work on things in class, shown things. We're here to basically help you not only get certified, but also be good at your job. Now, I am a 5-time worldwide Microsoft MVP winner. This is an award that Microsoft gives out to people who excel in a certain part of the industry. Mine were all in networking and security. And I am the same Will Panek that writes all of the Cybex study guides. All right? So, let's jump into Azure. Okay, so one of the big things that is coming down the pike is Azure's changing. So that's why I put in here, welcome to Azure Active Directory, sort of. Now, there is a reason why I said sort of, all right? Right now, as you can see, this slide was taken 4 days ago. So I made it pretty current. As you can see, everything in here still shows that we're using Azure Active Directory. Azure Active Directory is going to stay in play, and that's what you're going to see in Azure. Now, from what I've read and what Microsoft has said, not everybody is going to change over on October 1st. That's the changeover, October 1st. So on October 1st, everything that has Azure Active Directory is going to be removed, and it's going to be Entra. Now, from what I read, and this is kind of hard because they're not really spelling it out, they're just kind of giving you basics of what's going to happen. They're saying that some people are going to migrate early, and they're going to see Entra earlier than October 1st. But by October 1st, everyone in the industry is going to be changed over. So as you can see right now, this still says Azure. If you look at the bottom, it still says license is Azure Active Directory. The workload, it's still Azure, but it's not Azure anymore. Or at least it won't be. So that's why I say sort of, because at this point, if you go out and you say, okay, Will just told me Microsoft's getting rid of Azure Active Directory, and you go out and you still see Azure Active Directory everywhere, don't think, well, he didn't know what he was talking about. No, it's just it hasn't changed over. It just hasn't switched over yet. So here are some of the changes and the dates that are important for us. Okay, October 1st is the biggest date because that's when it's going to do a full changeover. It's going to become Microsoft Entra ID free. You're going to have Premium 1 and Premium 2. Now, here's the really great thing. Everything is staying the same. Makes it real easy for a webinar. There are no changes. I went through this for the weeks now because I'm getting ready, building other classes that are going to include Entra. And this is what Microsoft posts up. Hold on. I'm going to... Oh, sorry. It got changed. Okay, so this right here originally was a screen capture. So made it look a little nicer. So this came right off of Microsoft's website. Basically, no action is required for you. If you're using Azure Active Directory, you don't have to do anything. Okay? You don't have to do nothing. If you notice, this was a headline right at the top. Only the name is changing. Microsoft has that all over their website. Only the name is changing. So, knowing that only the name is changing, it makes it real simple on us. On October 1st, when you all log into Entra, because it ain't going to be Azure, when you log into Entra Active Directory, you're going to see all the changes. Now, for some of you, I just want to make sure you understand, some of you are probably going to see these changes sooner. All right, you're probably going to see these changes sooner because Microsoft's not just going to flick a switch on October 1st. They're going to start migrating people over. Now, what does that mean for all of us? Okay, well, the biggest thing is, obviously, the name is changing. So that's it. You have to make sure that all your documentation, all your training materials, if you're teaching people, all right, if you have work that you do, where you give classes at work or train your end users, basically everything that says Azure is going to have to be changed. If you did any videos, I'm a big person on videos. I love doing videos for people at work. Okay, Camtasia Studio and me loved each other when I was an IT director, and I would do a lot of videos on just changes that were coming down the road. And I put them on the network, send out an email, say, hey everybody, this is changing or this is changing. If you want to look at the video, you can see what's coming down the pike. That might not be a bad idea. Or maybe put something together in an email. But I would send out and let all of your users know that this change is coming. That's going to be the biggest issue for us in IT. It's not going to be the physical change because nothing's changing except the name. So the physical change isn't going to matter. But on October 1st, every single user that you have that goes into Azure or sees anything with Azure is not going to know what Entra is. And they're going to have no idea that it's Azure, that it's just changed. So I would definitely recommend that you put something together, a video, an email, some documentation, and give it to all your users so that they know by October 1st, they're not going to see the same names that they currently see now. All right. So I think that's where one of our biggest problems is going to be. It's going to be that their users, and here's another thing. even the IT members. Most of your IT department probably knows that this is coming down the pike, but you may have people that work in a help desk, that work, that they're not like part of the main server IT department. They might not actually know this is coming down. Now, here's the real question. Is it going to stay this? I mean, think about this. All right, think about this. Oh, hold on a second. It would help if I turned on my pen. We could think about this if my pen was on. So hold on, I got to turn my pen on. Okay, so for all of you that know, originally it was Intune. Oh. Okay, here we go. Okay, so it was Intune. And that's what everybody did. We took our classes, we learned Intune. Well, Microsoft basically said, we're not going to use Intune anymore. We're going to go to endpoint. And as a matter of fact, they even set up an exam, MD 102. It's actually the endpoint exam. That was the one that was put on hold. Why? Because they're not going to be using endpoint. Now, I saw a joke somebody posted up that said Intune, endpoint, Intune. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't know if they're going back to Intune. I don't know if they've actually announced that yet of what the name is that they're going to go back to. But I've heard different names thrown out there. But yes, it's changing again. So that's going to be one of the hardest things for us in IT. All right, one of the hardest things is we're going to have to stay up on the changes. Because Microsoft is going to be making changes that we might not even hear about or know about. And next thing we know, we're out in Azure and everything's different. And you're getting 10,000 phone calls from your IT department and all your users. All right? So I saw somebody post up, the Active Directory part is confusing. Are you referring to the Active Directory on Azure, where it says Azure Active Directory? Or are you just referring to the words Active Directory in general, like on a server? Because if you're talking about Azure Active Directory, you're 100% accurate. It has always been a little confusing. Why? Because there's no such thing. Azure Active Directory isn't real. This is not Active Directory. I don't care what they name it. Okay? You can call a frog a bird, but it doesn't make it a bird. You can call it Active Directory, but it doesn't make it Active Directory. Anyone here that has ever worked in Azure knows that Azure Active Directory and Active Directory are not even close to each other. But Microsoft does these things because, and I think it was, hold on. I just want to make sure I get the right person here. Hank. So Hank, the thing is that I get this question all the time. I moved into Azure Active Directory because I thought it was going to be Active Directory. So I wasn't going to have much issues changing over. I use Active Directory every day. No. They did that purposely. Microsoft actually did that purposely. They knew that if they put the words Active Directory next to Azure, that you would feel more comfortable and you would consider changing to Azure much quicker than if they just called it something else. I mean, now they are. They're actually getting rid of the Active Directory part and it's called Entra. So technically they are actually getting rid of the words Active Directory. But that has always been confusing for people because, yes, the problem that you run into is that Active Directory in Azure is not really Active Directory. But once you make that change, once you start getting into it and you get your subscription and you pay Microsoft and then when you realize, hey, this really isn't Active Directory, it's too late. You're already in Azure. So, but the nice thing is, Azure's not overly complicated. If you know how to work on a server, you can figure out Azure Active Directory. There's not much to it. Adding a user is adding a user anywhere you do it. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, but the big thing is going to be the confusion. I can see it already because I have already had people in my classes that are completely confused about how this is going forward. So if you're in that boat, it's okay. You're not alone. We're all in that boat. I'm doing this PowerPoint presentation, and I've been researching this for months as they're making these changes, and I still don't completely understand everything that they're doing. So don't feel bad if you're in that boat, okay? So, all right. Now, here are some other dates and some other changes that you should know. So, I took this right off of Microsoft's website. Here is all of the new names. Azure Active Directory free is going to be Entra free. Then you got the Premium 1, Premium 2, and then Education. Now, Active Directory for Education is not for, like, even for us. Even though we're a school and we're teaching you Microsoft, the education really, that license is not for us. It's for colleges and universities. So if you're a college student and you're strapped on cash, you can get a cheaper version of Azure at a student fee. That's why they have that. It's a full copy. It has everything that the regular copies have. It's just cheaper. So if you're a student or you work for a college, a school, a high school, a municipality school system, I would check into that. Also, some other names that they're going to be changing: the P1 for government, the P2 for students, P2 for faculty, P2 for government. Those are all changing. So here is the proposed list of name changes that are coming out on. Okay? Now, nonprofit is different than a school. Okay? The school version, that's a good question. Nobody has ever asked me that question before, and that's actually a good question. Because there is an actual difference. So, I'm glad you asked that. Okay. So, nonprofits obviously can include more than just schools. Okay? Veterans organizations, helping homeless, veterans, basically anything that is a nonprofit can contact Microsoft. Microsoft has nonprofit licenses. They'll set you up with Azure or Entra in October, and it'll be at a much cheaper rate. That is different than the student version. The student version, when you get that, are full versions of stuff. For example, I can buy the student version of Windows 11. I can also get the student version of Office. Basically, they're the full versions of Windows 11 and Office. It's just that it's cheaper for me because I'm a college student. So the student version is for college students. The nonprofit is for anybody who's a nonprofit organization. So I'm really glad you asked that question, because no one's really asked me to differentiate between a nonprofit and a college. But obviously there's a big difference, because when they talk about the student licenses and the college licenses, okay, that is for the particular student. It's not for the organization. It's not for the college itself. It's for the students at the college. Okay? Excellent. That's a great question. It's a great question. So basically, come October 1st, everything's going to be different. Now, this is going to be a big change. It's going to be a big change for everybody. I mean, anything that you have that has the words Azure Active Directory has to be changed. So I would say, if I was you, I would start working on that now. Because October is just a little over a month and a half away. And it could be a lot with changing. So I would definitely recommend you jump on this as soon as you can. Okay? All right. Now, not everything is changing. So I wanted to make sure I brought some stuff up, especially the last bullet on this. Because there is actually going to be a couple things that still have the word Azure Active Directory. But it's not really going to be what we think of. So, the Microsoft Authentication Library is staying the same. That is for, people that want to write and do things with APIs and graphs and third-party APIs. And Microsoft Graph, that is another thing that's staying the same. It's going to be stored in Entra, but it's still going to be Graph. Obviously, PowerShell is PowerShell, not changing. All right. The Windows Server Active Directory. Okay, Active Directory. That is not changing. Active Directory itself is not changing. So, what I'm talking about, let me... Let me grab and open up another. You're already on this window, but I got to change my... Okay. I'm still here. Hold on, I'm going to change you over to another window. Okay, so this is our server. This is running Windows Server 2022. All right, so what they're talking about is regular, good old-fashioned Active Directory. This one right here. Okay, Active Directory. Now, this is Active Directory that we have on site. It's our server version of Active Directory. For all of you that might not know, which I probably doubt is nobody here, you probably all know this, but Active Directory is the database that runs our on-site network, okay? Our in-house network. So this is going to stay the same. Active Directory is not changing. It's going to stay exactly the same. So you don't have to worry about relearning everything on the server side. And honestly, you don't even have to worry about learning to change anything even on the Azure side. The only thing that's changing, and I can't stress this enough, is just the name. Everything is going to work exactly the way it works now. So you're not going to have to relearn anything. You're not going to have to oh man, I just learned Azure Active Directory. Now I got to learn a whole new. No, you're not going to have to. They're literally just going to pull the name out, stick the other name in, and you're done. Nothing to it. I told you this was going to be an easy webinar because there's not much we actually have to do. All right? So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about exams. Now, no, you don't need to have any type of connector. Excuse me. The Azure Active Directory Connect right now is still the current connector. And all that does is it connects you with your on-site network. It doesn't connect you to Azure. It connects you to the name you chose. So let's jump onto the server for a second. Okay, let's open up Azure. So I should have, hold on, I'm going to put you back on the slides for a second because I got to log in. Let me just, I'm going to fire up Azure real quick here. And I'll get you logged in and we'll just take a little tour. Because some of the questions that are asking about Active Directory, Azure Active Directory are good questions. So so here we are, we're logged in. Okay. Let me put you back on my server. Okay, so here's what happens. If you're a little bit newer to Azure, let's talk about how this actually works. Okay? Okay, that's exactly what I was about to talk about, Patrick. You got it. When you go to setup, actually, let's do this. All right, this is going a little bit different than where I was going to take it, but I like taking it this way. So, all right. So, whenever you see an on-site domain, in-house, it's represented by a better triangle than what I was just writing. So whenever you see a triangle, believe it or not, that represents a domain. If you're reading one of my books or you're out on Microsoft's website and you're reading the white papers, anytime they show you a triangle, they're showing you a domain. Our objective is, after we set up Azure, and I'm still referring to it as Azure because it's still Azure until October. So what we got to do is somehow we got to make a connection point between our on-site network and Azure. Now, the reason that you need to do this is because the goal of setting up what we call a hybrid network, this is what this is, a hybrid. The goal of a hybrid network, and it's a very easy goal, you're trying to achieve single sign-on. That's the whole goal, single sign-on. So what does that mean? It's called SSO, single sign-on. What that means is, as a user, I log into this domain and I automatically get access into Azure. I don't have to log back in. I log in once, I get access to both networks. Single sign-on. To achieve this, somehow you got to connect the two networks together. Well, Microsoft gives you the tools that will allow you to do this. Okay? The tool is Azure Active Directory Connect. But here's the amazing thing, and a lot of people haven't even noticed this yet. It's actually Connect. I was saying connector, but it was Connect. Sorry. Okay. There we go. Okay. Azure Active Directory Connect. We'll get it. Okay. So here's the amazing thing. Azure Active Directory Connect's already been disappearing. It's already disappearing. All right. When you want to connect Azure Active Directory Connect, here's the whole process from start to finish. You ready for this? You go into Azure. You go into Azure Active Directory Connect. After October, Entra, you scroll down. The first thing you have to do is where it says custom domain names. If you want to connect your cloud to your on-site network, you have to set it up so that the two can communicate with each other and you can set up your single sign-on. Microsoft already gives you the tools. It's called Azure Active Directory Connect. This is the utility you're going to use so that you can make this connection point. But before you can do that, you got to go into custom domain names and you have to tell the Azure network what the name of your network's going to be. And in this example here, our network is Evil Hacker Empire. If I minimize this and I open the domain, you'll see the domain matches. Evil Hacker Empire. So this is my on-site network. It matches what I put into Azure Active Directory. Then what you do is you have to create a DNS record. The DNS record allows Azure to verify that you own this name. So we did that. We created a DNS record. Microsoft went out and did a verification and it proved that we owned Evil Hacker Empire. Once they know that we own it, once they know that it's ready to go, then at that point it will come up as verified. Once it comes up as verified, Microsoft knows you own it, then the next step is to download and use Azure Active Directory. But here's the thing. Anybody notice this? When you come in Azure Active Directory Connect, it automatically brings up Azure Active Directory Sync. It's been changing and a lot of people haven't even noticed. Now the Connect is still there. Okay, the Connect is still there. If I go to Manage, I can go in and here's my Connect Sync. Okay, if you want to do Cloud Sync, if I click on Access. But the big thing here is that you now have to go find Azure Active Directory Connect under Connect Sync. And here it is. We have it running on this network. We have it set up, and the two are already connected together. And we used Azure Active Directory Connect to do it. But the point I'm trying to make here is that it's already been changing. Azure Active Directory Connect has already been changing to sync. So believe it or not, when they do the full changeover, it's not going to affect you because the way that you connect, okay, the way that you connect your on-site network with the cloud is by doing the custom domain name and then the Azure Connect. It doesn't touch the words Azure Active Directory at all. So, the point I'm just trying to make here is that the only name you're putting in Azure is the name of your tenant, your network in the cloud. So ours is Evil Hacker Empire. All right, I'm not going to write the whole thing out. You get it, okay? Once we did that and Microsoft verified it, this is our connection now. It doesn't go to Azure Active Directory. It doesn't go to like a particular where it has to go into Azure. Once the connection's made, it's just between your site and your on-site network. So if the point is, if they change the name, it's not going to affect your connection whatsoever. You're not going to have to redo a connector. You're not going to have to, at least right now, Microsoft is nothing's going to change on the connection. So if you already have Azure Active Directory installed and running, when this change happens, there's nothing you're going to have to do. Okay? No, you don't need to have anything in-house. If I want to, I can have a 100% cloud network. But if I do that, you're not setting up a hybrid, obviously, because a hybrid means you have an on-site and a cloud network. This is just you have a cloud-based network at that point. So you're missing the hybrid part. So you do not need to set up an on-site network. But here's the thing. All right. So if you can't set up Azure DNS in-house, How do we just do what I just said? Well, here's the thing. You know I told you got to put a DNS record out there? It's actually a TXT record, just if you were wondering. All right, a text record. When you build a TXT record, you don't put it on your domain anyway. You put the DNS record on the server that's hosting your website. So if GoDaddy was hosting Evil Hacker Empire, I would actually create the DNS record on GoDaddy, not on the domain. To make this connection, you have to tell Microsoft that you own the domain name. And the way they verify that is through the domain provider. So once they know you own the name and it's somewhere out there on the internet, then at that point they'll let you do the connection. So you never set up, I mean you can, but very rarely do we set up DNS records on site for this. We set them up whoever's hosting our web server. That's where you set it up. Does that make sense to everybody? So the point I'm making is if you don't have an on-site network, it doesn't matter. You're still going to set this DNS record up on whoever's hosting your website. And that's how you make the connection. But here's the thing. If you don't have an on-site network, you don't have to worry about using Azure Active Directory Connect. What are you going to connect it to? There is no on-site network. So what am I going to use Azure Active Directory Connect for? Yes, Azure Active Directory Connect is free. Doesn't cost you a dime. Microsoft gives it to you. They're always going to give you the tools that you need to do the job. Don't ever worry about that. They want you changing over. Okay? So you don't ever have to worry about that. All right, let me put you back on the slides. Okay, so let's talk about exam changes. This is something that I get hit on every single day. I get emails every day about this. All right, this is a big one that... So, Microsoft is changing exams. The problem that we have is we don't know all the changes yet. All right, in May, Microsoft announced that they were going to be putting out a brand new certification, MD 102. MD 102 is replacing 100 and 101. 100 and 101 are the two client exams. Now, you notice on this slide, it says that these are good until September. Yes, you can take the MD 100 and MD 101 exams as of right now. I don't know if it'll change again because this has changed. Like, it seems like it's changing almost daily. But as of right now, you have until the end of September. Come October 1st, MD 100 and MD 101 will be gone. They will not be there. MD 102 will be the new exam. But the problem that we have is we don't know the name of it yet. On Microsoft's website, it is still showing as endpoint. Well, we know endpoint is not going to be the name of it. They've already told us that. But they haven't released any new information. So right now, we don't know what the exam name is going to be. And I think they're still going to keep it MD 102. But it's going to be the new client exam. So what does it really mean for us? Well, right now, there are two Windows client exams. MD 100 and MD 101. The way Microsoft originally decided to do this was MD 100 was going to be more or less the client operating system. Windows 10 and Windows 11 questions. How do you set it up? How do you get it on the network? How does a user log in? How do they, get encryption? How do they, all the normal Windows 10, Windows 11 questions you get. MD 101 was also a Windows client exam, but it primarily focused on Azure. Microsoft decided instead of having two exams, that they would actually just make it one. And now the exam is going to cover the client and the Azure part of this. The problem is it's not called endpoint anymore. So they have to change it around. That's why it's been put on hold. All right? It wasn't put on hold because it's not ready, or it's just that they decided to change the name. So, You have until September to get MD100, MD101 knocked out if you want to do it. Listen, I'm going to give you a recommendation on something because people always ask me this. Should I go after the MD100 and MD101? Okay, this is what I would say. I got that same question when Microsoft was canceling the MCSA and the MCSE. People would email me and say, should I really go after the MCSA or should I really go after the MCSE now that Microsoft is canceling the certification? They're getting rid of the track. And my answer was yes. Because once these exams go away, they are not coming back. If you want this cert on your resume, if you want this cert, you need to get it before it is retired because you're never going to be able to get it again. So yes, I think it's still a very good cert to have because it really was a client certification. MD102 is going to be endpoint. That's going to be the name of the exam or whatever they decide to name it. MD100 and MD101 specifically stated that they were there for clients. So people knew that you were certified on client software. MD102 is not going to show that as well. So I would recommend that you recertify. Now, what about recertifying after the year? You don't have to worry about it. When Microsoft kills an exam, you keep your cert. I am still NT351 and NT40 certified. It's still active on my resume, on my transcript. Microsoft, when they kill off a cert, if you're certified in it, it just stays on your permanent record and you're good. So if you do not have a client certification behind you, I would highly recommend that you look at doing the Windows 10/11 certification. You have 2 months, okay, a month and a half. They're not hard certs. You can knock both of these exams out in about a week each, 2 weeks. They're not that hard, okay? Yeah, if we're all still NT certified, it doesn't do us much help, does it? So, all right, look at this. I got another one for you. Okay, so here are some more dates and some more information that Microsoft has given out. Now listen, here's the funny thing about this. A lot of these dates are wrong. Let me go back one. Did you notice, by the way, it said here May and it's saying here September? All right, they already know that the May deadline's gone. There is no MD102 right now. It's still a beta exam. It's gone. But they're still showing it that it's going to be available in May. Well, I think we're a little bit past May and it's still not live. So when they give you dates, the only thing I'm trying to say is just, I don't know if I would carve the date in stone because Microsoft changes their dates. The perfect example is a lot of these certifications were supposed to be killed off 3 months ago in May. So you have the 365 messaging administrator. They're going to retire that in December. The Teams Application Developer Associate, December. The Azure Operator Associate, July. And you can see all the rest. These are all retiring. And then obviously MD100 and MD101. That date of September 30th has changed about 9 times. So I don't know if it's going to change again. I don't know if I would bank on that. But I would just recommend you get these things done as fast as you can, and you don't have to worry about it. All right, so who are we here at Stormwinds? Here at Stormwinds, we are an online training company. I used to always say we're an online computer training company because that's really what we did most of, but we've kind of expanded that to beyond computers. So we are just an online training company where if you want to learn about certifications and computers and just hundreds of other topics, Stormwinds is here for you. Now we have both live and recorded classes. Now every class that we do is recorded, including this webinar. This webinar is going to go up onto the campus and will be available to everybody as soon as we're done doing it. So we have live classes. The live classes, you have a live instructor. You have server setup or client machine setup, whatever your class is on. We have not only our setup, I can show you labs, I can show you the internet, I can show you our servers, slides. I can give you a full class from beginning to end. You can ask me questions, you can interact with me, and you don't even have to leave your house. If you need to get certified or you just need to learn a product better for work, we're here for you. We have thousands of classes, and we can pretty much cover any topic, especially in the computer world, that you're looking for. All right? As long as it's obviously, if it's a specialty topic that's only 20 people in the whole world have, I don't know if we're going to have that class, but you get the point. All right? So at Stormwinds, we are here to not only help you get certified, but more importantly, we're here to make sure you can do the job. It's no good to have a certification and not know what you're doing. So we give you labs, practice exams, study books. We give you everything you need. All you have to do is attend the classes, put some time in studying, and you're going to blow right through this. If you would like more information about Stormwinds and who we are and what we do, Colin has posted up a link in the chat, and that link actually will take you to the next steps if you would like to look at Stormwinds, what we do, what programs we offer. They can take excellent care of you. You can also contact Mike Fajan at mike.fajan@stormwindlive.com. And again, Colin also put that link up in the chat. You can reach him at 480-339-2731. Now, I am going to be starting 2 classes in a week. If you would like to, AZ900, which is Azure Fundamentals, and I'm going to be doing an AZ801. I'm going to be doing one in the morning, 11 o'clock, 11 to 1, and then the other class from 2 to 4. If you would like to start learning more about Azure, and you would like to start learning more about how to do in these connections, how to set up your Azure Active Directory Connect, how to setting up your custom domain name. In 801, on the first day, I am going to show you a video that I did of connecting the 2 networks together step by step. You're going to see it step by step on how to do it. So if you need to learn more about Azure or Entra come October, reach out to Mike, and we'd love to hear from you. All right? And listen, everybody, I would like to thank all of you for coming out today. It's always nice when we have these on Fridays, and it's always impressive to me how many people come out to class on Friday afternoon, right before a weekend. You probably got a million things to do so that you can go home and spend some time with your family, and you're taking that very precious time and hanging out with me, and I really do appreciate it. All right, we know how valuable your time is, and we appreciate you coming out. Listen, everybody, I'd like to thank you all for coming out and having a little bit of an introduction on Entra ID. I am Stormwind Studios instructor and Cybex author William Panek. I look forward to seeing you in one of my classes real soon. Have a great weekend and stay safe, everybody. Thanks for coming out.